Oh, Viggo's great. In fact, I was just on the phone to him. He gives me so much abuse, that man. But yeah, he's always great. He's always up for it, you know. Tons and tons of energy. He's always eating chocolate. I think that's what does it. Maybe I should eat chocolate. Can someone get me some chocolate?
Which is mostly stuff I made in New Zealand, photographs I took, paintings that I either started there, finished there, completed there. The colors and the imagery and a lot of the text that's in the mixed media pieces. In some cases it's directly connected to Tolkien or to New Zealand poets or just things I saw or heard or, you know, wrote down myself, observations, journal entries, whatever, you know. So I guess it's primarily things that I made while in New Zealand or that were inspired by being there. I don't think even, you know, whether it be England, Wales, Ireland, US, Canada, I mean, where there are a lot of, you know, good poets, South America, whatever. New Zealand's a small country, you know, like 5 million people. Population of Denmark or something, and there's a huge number of good poets there and artists. And they were, to me personally, while working on Lord of the Rings, these poets and artists like Colin McCann and the newer ones as well were a big inspiration, and they made the journey even more worthwhile than it already was. Jane Campion, who everybody knows, I worked with her on what we call Portrait of a Lady, and she's obviously well known worldwide for her movie The Piano, among others. But her mom, Edith Campion, was a really fine actress and a really good writer. And this is one of her poems that I think is really nice, and it's how it sometimes can feel on a long job like this, or just anybody in any walk of life sometimes. I feel like a hawk in a cage, all my flight feathers have molted, the beak made for tearing flesh has been filed down, and I have learned to sing a canary song to please people. Not the cheeriest, but it's very beautiful, I think. This is by Bill Manhire, who's a really well-known poet there and has edited some anthologies, and I think he teaches, and anyway. And this was written in 1977, and it's called How to Take Off Your Clothes at the Picnic. It is hardly sensuous, but having eaten all the cold meat and tomatoes, you forget to remove your trousers and instead skip stones across the river with some other man's wife, until finally the movement of a small wind, no larger than the reach of a finger and thumb, makes it impossible, carefully lifting off every item of clothing. Then you may share an apple and watch from your side of the river shoes and socks coming down to rest on the other. Anyway, I like that. There's so many, but I recommend any anthology you can pick up of New Zealand poets. You'll be astounded. It would be easy to say that he was brave, or that, you know, any number of characters are brave in the story, but in fact they are all, which is why Tolkien wrote such a good story. They're all afraid at different times. They all have to face, big and small challenges personally. I think that what I admire most about him is that even if he hesitates at times to do the right thing or to act in the right way, I think he's essentially honest. I admire his forthrightness. He may keep a lot to himself, but I don't think he's a manipulative character. He's a pretty straight shooter, and I admire that about him, I think, most of all. Well, I think that there's a spirit there, that independent filmmaking spirit is out of necessity. That's always kind of been strong. You have forerunners in the 70s. There's all kinds. I mean, there's a great movie called Utu by Jeff Murphy. Jeff Murphy actually helped Peter Jackson. He was lucky enough to have him help on some of the units and stuff. There was a wave of filmmaking in the mid to late 70s, really, but it is a relatively new thing there. But the filmmaking that has been done is they are in isolation, like the artists, the painters, the poets, sculptors, whatever, architects in New Zealand. They sort of worked on their own and made things to please themselves, and really not with the illusion of having this huge world market. You know what I mean? So selling out wasn't even a topic of conversation so much, I don't think, as it might be here and other places. People there, if they want to make a movie, they feel like they can just go do it. And that's that's how Peter Jackson started. He just was making his movies in his house on weekends and getting whoever to make, slap these things together. And he and Richard, and what Weta is, grew out of that to some respect. And that's, you felt that with the crew, even though this was a huge production and there were hundreds, thousands of people involved. It felt kind of like an independent movie most of the time because it was made in that spirit. It's like, well, there's thunderstorm, or we don't have enough lights for this, or, I don't know, the idea of, well, we can't wasn't really part of it. I mean, it was always, well, how are we going to do it then? A make-do kind of attitude, very much an independent filmmaking attitude is what that country has. Partly because of the freshness of the medium there compared to here in Europe. But I think it's also just the way people are. I mean, no matter how long the hours, no matter how tired we were at the end, people were really into it. And yes, it was because of Tolkien, and the effort that Peter Jackson inspired in everybody, but I think it had more than anything to do with what the New Zealanders are like as people. And so I'm glad you let me read some of their poetry. I'm sure they'll say, why didn't you read so-and-so's and so-and-so's? But there's so many good ones. And thank you, and kia ora. By Jane Campion, her mom, who was a great actress and poet, but nobody would know outside of New Zealand.
They think the piano and they think that's it.
Yeah.